Hello and welcome to the People's Election. I'm Eric Olberg. Now because this show is so personal to me, I want to extend a personal thank you to you. Thanks for watching. I gave up everything to film this show, and really every view that I get makes that feel less and less like a mistake.
When united, American voters are the most powerful people in the world. America is the greatest superpower the world has ever seen. American policy shapes the world we all live in. From wars, to foreign aid, to domestic policies that affect us, American voters have the power to control all of it. You've heard it before. With great power comes great responsibility. I believe we live on the verge of desperate times. This planet is faltering under the weight of our population and our consumption.
Our leaders continue to fail us. They continue to be puppets of the money that funds their campaigns. The responsibility therefore falls to the people, to demand policies to turn back these disturbing trends. We have that power, if we are united. But we are more divided than we've ever been before. Our fourth estate now consists of a few corporations making a profit off of outrage. Polarization is their agenda. And the internet is not much better. Social media is full of memes that slander and bash the other side. We are divided and powerless, which is what those in power want, so they may continue policies that benefit only them at the expense of us and the rest of the world. If nothing changes, America will continue to decline. I fear for the calamity that is looming on the horizon. I fear being part of a society that is crumbling from the inside out on a planet that is dying. I fear that within my lifetime, there will be a global conflict over what limited resources remain. This show isn't about promoting my political agenda. This show is about finding out what the American people believe, finding out how engaged are they, and if there's any common ground that we can unite on to save ourselves. I'll have some footage of me on the street with some people talking about some of the issues, but first, I'd like to share with you some details about my journey.
A lot of people have been asking me where I'm headed first. I considered heading west. I'm already on this side of the country. I have places to stay in Seattle. From there I could roll north to Alaska and visit my friend up there. Then I thought, trek to Alaska in September and October? No thank you. I heard of the Bernie Sanders rally in D.C., the one that just got over 100,000 people to RSVP on Facebook. I'd really like to see that, and I would like to see the East Coast in the fall. So I made up my mind. I'm heading east, first through Bozeman, then Billings, then North Dakota, and on to Minneapolis. Eventually I'll make it to the East Coast and to Washington, D.C. It's a long journey. I'd better be prepared.
So a lot of people have asked me if I'm ready for this, and I think I am. I'm no athlete, but I'm in decent shape. I walk a lot. I haven't done backpacking for about 9 years, but I used to be in a program where we did it almost daily. We would have week-long excursions through the woods where we would only be able to use what was on our back. So I still have a lot of that lightweight gear. Okay, so here's just a quick review of some of the things I'm bringing on my trip. First and most importantly,
a 0-degree sleeping bag. This pillow, stuff sack to compact it down into. That there is my tent. It's fairly lightweight. It's a 2-person tent, but I'll just have to make do. My pack, a large Osprey 110 liter. Some of my clothes for on the road. In the kitchen, I've got the jet boil there with some fuel. Got a headlamp, folding bowl and folding cup. First aid kit, some moleskin for the feet. Also bringing along the trumpet. If it gets cold, I have a few things. I have a silk scarf, thermal underwear, fleece for my top, and fleece for my bottom. And I have a nice lightweight Gore-Tex jacket that should be adequate to keep the rain off, keep the wind out. So pretty well prepared. There's still some things I need to get. I need to get my electronic equipment, obviously. I'm going for a laptop that's refurbished, has 8 gigs of RAM, has a decent processor, I can't remember the exact specifications, and it has an SD card slot, which is what the camera I'm looking at getting will have. Well, it looks like I'm almost all set to travel the country and see what you have to say. But first, what do the people in my own hometown have to say? Helena is the capital of Montana, with a population of just under 30,000. This is the town that gold built. Helena started as a mining town. There are a lot of government employees here, but I've found most people don't really seem to enjoy discussing politics. People here seem to be proud to be Americans. You can see flags outside of many businesses and homes. Helena can be a sleepy little town, but it's close to trails and national forests. Many residents have outdoor hobbies to pass the time. Well, here I am in great downtown Helena. I've been asking people if they would answer a couple of questions on the camera, and most people are really camera shy. I've been able to get maybe 4 or 5 people to talk to me out of like a couple dozen. So it's hard work, but hopefully we'll get some footage.
Run the country?
Creating a dialogue with other countries. That is, I think that's the approach that needs to be taken, which I think he's actually doing a pretty good job trying to do so, even not, maybe not with the majority support from his country, but I think he's taken an approach that you cannot just come and tell other people and countries what to do. You have to create a dialogue so it's in the best interest for everybody, and I think that is the route to go.
I think that, or it should be, is inspire people. That's what I believe. I think that the most important job that he has is to lead us to a point to where we can, as a people, be a better nation. Because, I mean, you see the politics and the police and the racism and everything that's going on right now. Like, a better president would be focused more on solving those issues instead of issues overseas. Well, issues overseas are very relevant and very important, but what we have going on right here is a big issue.
Being someone who's level-headed and makes good decisions and kind of takes in the whole picture instead of just being focused on the rich getting richer, basically.
I think bringing the three different arms of government together and getting agreement, bringing people with differences together to accomplish the business of the people, like I said earlier.
Well, the most important thing is that he's the executive in chief, or she is the executive in chief of the country, and should run it like that rather than trying to make laws through executive order.
I really know many of the issues of 2016.
Immigration.
There's a lot, but I think one of the issues that I think should definitely be approached now is the big gap between the wealthy and the main part of America. The 1% that kind of is the wealthiest of America. That gap that has been created over the last decades is definitely something that needs to be approached. there's a lot of focus on corporate tax loopholes and all this that could definitely go and help serve the community better. And I think stuff like that should be taken a better approach to, so you have more money to the communities that can go to education and to the kids, and take care of the middle class America.
Well, we came here as immigrants from England, so we feel that people that come here legally should get all of the benefits. People who come here illegally should have some process to figure out whether they should be here or not.
Right.
I realize there's 11 million of them, so I don't think it's actually feasible to think that they can all be deported.
Right.
But there should be some process that they go through, because we had to wait a long time before we were able to come here, and then after going through the whole green card process, and then finally getting American citizenship took about 15 years.
Most important issue? Geez, good question. I'm not sure I can say that there's just one. I would say probably the issue that I'd like addressed is just politicians in general. The gridlock back in Washington, D.C.
I would say respecting the dignity of all human life
Okay.
is the most important issue.
Could you be a little bit more specific as to which policy you might be referring to?
I would say regarding abortion, the fact that abortion's been legal in our country for 40 plus years, and just ignoring the humanity of the unborn.
Right now, I'm probably going to have to say either Social Security or health care.
Right.
It's a really big issue right now. I'm 27, and I can't afford insurance.
Right.
And I'm a dancer, and I teach classes, and I'm in a lot of pain in most days, and it's hard to want to go and get something done, but you don't want to accumulate another health bill,
That's definitely the most important issue for me. And also, another one is just the family.
Great.
And just the brokenness of the families, and how can we help through policy to improve that.
Did you have any specific policies regarding that family issue that you'd like to see supported?
Well, I would say just respecting that the family is the foundation of any culture, any nation, and whatever they can do in that area to really promote strong, I hate to use the term family values, but just the importance of a family structure for especially the children.
Well, for me personally, I'd like to see politicians get back to actually being constitutional politicians. Seems like Republicans, Democrats, two-party systems kind of failed the American people, so I'd like to see a return to constitutional politics.
Is there a specific policy you'd like to see enforced?
Not specifically.
I think the most important issue is convincing the American people that not all politicians are liars, and that our vote actually means something. And I guess I'm not convinced. I feel like that there's health care, and there's the minimum wage issue, and there's just the middle bracket getting taxed so highly, and the rich people not getting taxed highly enough. But I don't really feel like any of that is going to actually be addressed, because I don't feel like our vote means anything, because of how politicians are basically owned by big business.
I have a whole list, actually. Don't have time for it.
One thing.
But everything that's going on with the ISIS project.
ISIS?
They need to be stopped.
All right.
Blowing up everything that we hold dear.
Is there anything specific you'd like to see us do?
Stop them.
Would that include sending in troops, or?
Yes. actually, if that's what it's going to take.
You know, if I could go and riding up in the White House first time as president, Obamacare is his automobile insurance.
We're in a sad state when we've got a person like Donald Trump, who I appreciate bringing a different view. I think he, the people that are supporting him, they're showing their frustration towards traditional politicians. We're not given good choices. I think if we look at, the 17, 18 candidates from both parties that are currently running for president, we are in a sad state. Not great leadership there.
I just think the lack of trust overall. We're not affiliated with any political party. I don't think anyone really fully represents, what I feel is important.
Well, I guess that's my big issue, is that I don't really feel like our vote even matters anymore.
On the street, most people were pretty brief, so for a little bit more in-depth conversation, I sat on the front porch with one of my neighbors, and we discussed politics a little. So could I ask you guys the questions I was asking everybody on the street?
Totally, yeah, go for it.
Okay. What do you think is the most important thing the president does?
Ooh.
Off the top of my head, I'd say with all of the hoops you have to get through to get laws passed and all the sauce you get when you try to use executive orders too often. I mean, I think at the end of the day, the big thing for a president is, I think, to be an example. I mean, a lot of people say he's a figurehead or a puppet, or it's the party that wins, or that it's local government that matters, and all of that. And if that's true, or even if it's not, I think being the exemplar is a big part of. To be a leader is sometimes just being visible and setting a tone.
Yeah, I think something kind of similar. I think that a president can be a unifying influence, and that's not always a good thing, right? Sometimes they bring their party together so that they can fight the other party and be more vicious or whatever. But it does seem like the president doesn't have as much direct power as Congress does. I mean, per capita, he's got a lot more than any individual congressman. But you compare the whole president's office to the entire Senate and House, they've got a lot more power than he does. But they're also always kind of fighting each other and trying to figure out exactly what they're doing. The president can bring people together, at least half of them.
What do you think is the most important issue in the 2016 presidential election?
Probably not any of the things they're talking about on TV. It seems like the things we ought to be worrying about are more like governmental efficiency.
Yeah, I think we're to the point now, I agree with Chris, that I think our country is so cut up in a lot of small areas, but on a 4-year election cycle or whatever, you have to be able to show all these massive results to get reelected by the next time, and so you have a lot of short-term goal work. And that means, especially in modern media, I think our elections become so much more tighter. So everybody wants to do the big things to get the big publicity, to get the big election done. And so I don't think we were focusing on infrastructure, balanced budget, I think cleaning up, because every time you want something done, you have a bill that's got 800 different things in it. And so each different section of laws in our country is, I think, just really heavy and bogged down and full of stuff that doesn't need to be there. Or you've got 6 different laws that all say the same thing, or 6 different laws that all together do one thing, when you could really just kind of pare that down, simplify things.
Yeah. But to be fair, the president doesn't have a whole lot of control over a lot of that stuff. I mean, he can talk a good game, but a lot of the actual day-to-day running of the budget and everything else is really totally up to Congress. And the president may write a budget, but it's really Congress's job to write the budget.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to get off their chest about American politics?
I would certainly say that the goal of trying to get money out of politics is probably a lofty goal, and I would like to see the politicians work that direction, even though it goes against their own re-election, which is an unfortunate situation we find ourselves in.
Does anyone have a specific candidate they're following?
Well, it's hard not to follow Trump. I mean, he is an entertainer, and is kind of what he's done, at least in my memory of him, is all about him being an entertainer. I don't know if he's trying to entertain or not, but he's definitely getting everyone's attention.
I haven't done as much like research and whatnot. It's mostly gone off of sound bites because it's 2015 still. Who knows? Like when it gets closer to the primary, maybe. But on the surface, I do like a lot of what Bernie's saying.
Mm-hmm. Bernie Sanders.
Yes, thank you. I do like the direction that's heading. I do have maybe some extreme political views in certain areas, like economics. So that might not be the same for a lot of people, but it's definitely what I felt like. And I find it funny because as a storyteller by trade, I don't think it necessarily will be good for the nation per se, but I like the idea of Sanders versus Trump in the overall election because, I mean, that's the story, right? That's
there you go.
That's the small time democratic socialist side of things and the big power capitalist, old money type.
I think it is the most dramatic. It will be the most dramatic general election we've had in a long time in this country if it's Trump versus Sanders.
I would agree with that completely.
I would just hate for it to be Trump versus Hillary, because then I'm in the horrible position of voting for Hillary Clinton. Because I'm not going to vote for Trump.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, but I don't want to vote for Hillary either.
No. But I believe you should vote regardless.
Oh, I agree.
Yes. But ultimately, Trump is kind of a ridiculous candidate, even though he's saying some things which may or may not be good. But as a candidate, he's ridiculous, and
he's 30% in a lot of polls now.
It's true, exactly, and then it makes you go, huh?
I mean, every party changes their story here and there. Everybody is a hypocrite at some point. That's human nature. But I do find it funny that the most recent Democratic candidate that got the nomination was berated by the right for lacking any experience. He had 2 years as a senator. He was a city level official before that. He has no experience in politics whatsoever. And then they're the party that seems to be really behind a guy who hasn't held political office of any kind.
Ever, yep. I don't think the Republican establishment is behind Trump.
I do have a tendency to vote along certain party lines, but I do feel that I am equally suspicious of both, or not equally suspicious, but I do have suspicion in both directions. I don't take what other party says at face value. But like Eric said, you kind of have to vote. Like, I don't feel that sitting on the sidelines accomplishes anything. So in a lot of ways, I do take the shotgun method to election, where this party does a lot of things I don't trust and I don't like a lot, but on the whole, compared to the other one, there's more stuff here that I like from this side. So I basically just throw as many of my votes this direction, because if I can't trust everything completely, I just have to, put as many of my eggs in one basket as I can and hope for the best. Is sometimes how I feel like I'm voting. I also try to be more optimistic about it, but at the end of the day, sometimes I leave the voting booth feeling that way. Like, these guys are probably going to screw me 50% of the time, but I kind of feel these guys are going to screw me 75% of the time, so I'll try to leave with 25% more if I can.
I was a little disappointed when I went out and asked people to answer questions on the street. Most people, like 3/4 of people, would not be willing to do any comment on camera.
Okay.
Some people were really willing to and interested in talking to me, but not on camera. So I'm hoping I'm able to document the viewpoints of the American people and just not the viewpoints of American people with large egos. If I was going to do that, I'd just do a documentary about myself.
I don't know, it seems like everybody wants to have their 2 cents worth on politics, but I could see a lot of people not being interested in doing it on camera, especially in the age of social media where you can have your opinion with absolute anonymity. And you can say ridiculously inflammatory things and never really be held accountable or...
Yeah, I never know how seriously to take somebody online when they're saying a political belief. I don't know if they're trolling,
There's sometimes, like, at work, because a lot of the places I've worked in my time have either been really heavy to one side or really heavy to the other. I haven't worked in that many places that are of a purple environment. And so there are times when I hear people talking politics that in person, whether that be on the street or in front of a camera or whatnot, whether they're not doing it in a social media sense, where I wonder if they're just trying to fit it, like they're going with the lowest common denominator in the room. Like they support this candidate because that's what everybody else has said so far, or they agree with this point of view because it's what the majority of the people do.
Well, there's a lot of people nowadays who complain about the echo chamber, right? And that the internet has this magnifying effect on anyone's opinion. That you can, if you have some crazy point of view, you can find someone else online who has the same point of view, and you can talk with each other about how smart we both are, or all 10 of us or 100 of us, whatever it is, and that makes you think that, well, if everyone I know thinks the same thing I think. But that's because you've selected for people who think the same thing you do.
Yeah, and like kind of the opposite of social media, the interpersonal microcosm as opposed to the non-personal macrocosm. I found, it's an example that I've used a lot, Annie's heard me say this before, is one of the guys I work with in the roller derby is a staunch conservative, very vocal about it.
I wouldn't expect a lot of conservatives in derby.
You'd be surprised, actually. It's actually a pretty broad.
Okay.
It's a very cross scope of environment.
Good for them.
But the thing with him is when he and I sit down, just the two of us, or in a small group, and we talk, it's always civil. It's always peaceful. We always get to a point. It's never gotten destructive or anti-social. It's never gotten anywhere there. And we oftentimes can find a lot of things we agree on, even though our political views are almost opposite in a lot of places. And then I compare that to the way social media works, and I realize that, the problem with running a large country or being a part of a large community is the most productive ways to accomplish some of these goals sometimes is at the very small level.
Getting respect from other people may be, the most important thing after food and shelter. And we're social critters, and that's really important to us. Whether you're at work or talking politics or whatever.
And you're not going to get anything out of anybody else if you show them complete and utter contempt or disrespect up front. Like if you want to try to convince somebody that their point of view might be wrong, or not wrong, but might have, if you want them to consider a different point of view potentially, but you're not going to accomplish anything by going in, telling them they're stupid, telling them they're wrong, making them feel inferior off the bat. If you listen to what they have to say, they might listen to what you have to say, but they're sure as hell not going to listen to what you have to say if you don't bother listening to them as well. It's not a guarantee, but it's generally the way I feel about it.
That's a skill I'd really like to cultivate, is being able to disagree with someone in a way that doesn't get me angry and doesn't get them angry. And it's not easy. And we don't have a lot of good examples of it, right? If you look at the political debates or candidates just, making their little statements to throw insults at each other, you don't get the feeling there's a lot of respect there. Even if there might actually be, they don't show it. And that's really a shame. But I think it's important, to kind of fight that echo chamber effect, for us to make ourselves talk with people who believe different things than we do, and then try and be calm about it, and try and actually understand the other person's point of view, even if you don't agree with it, but at least understand. The thing I hate hearing is when, I'm going to pick on conservatives, but you hear the opposite kind of thing from the liberals too, where the conservatives will say, well, the liberals just don't think. They're just all dumb. And you're like, no, actually that's not true.
We just don't agree with your philosophy that limited government is a solution to everything.
Right.
But, folks, we're at the 2-minute warning, so I'm going to say thank you, panel. You've all been very enlightening, very interesting, and cheers.
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 Happy travels.
Well, that's our show. Most people had different issues they wanted addressed, but most people also expressed a general frustration with politics and a desire to see people come together. How about you? How much exposure do you have to people with different opinions than your own? And how much common ground is there in your mind? I want to thank you for watching. Click subscribe down below, Comment if you like. I really appreciate constructive feedback. And if you want to contribute to my campaign, you can do so by clicking the Indiegogo link located in the description. The world is pretty messed up, but we have the power to fix it if we work together. I'm Eric Olberg. I'll see you on the road.